bitches do too. Yeah, all my niggas nuts, and I'm a loose screw. Bitch, I get big bucks, pockets on bruise. Yeah, I talk that shit. Bitch, I got bread, bitch, I got toast. Welcome to the murder show. I am the motherfucking host. They call me Weezy F. Baby, yes, I do the fucking roast. I'm in they notes until they choke the gun and smoke. I need a smoke, babe.
What causes crime? We have interviewed students and faculty here at Cathedral to see what they believe is the true cause of crime here in Boston.
Boston, well, I think when people have no other options and the economy's really bad, they feel hopeless, that might drive some people to crime, minor crime. I think a lot of other crime is caused by gangs fighting with each other.
I think stupidity and weakness.
There's a lot of crime out here. It's because guns, drugs, hoods. Just because people want to stand up for their hood. Like, they want to shoot someone and another one. Like, it's not gonna stop nothing.
The bad neighborhood people live in and the easy access to drugs and guns.
Why is there crime? Crime is an act of vengeance. It's a revenge. No one's able to let it go. It's doing something because someone's done something to you, and there's no forgiveness. So I think there's crime because it's an act of vengeance.
I think crime comes from your background. Like, if you have a poor background, then obviously you're going to make poor decisions in the future, which leads to crime.
I believe crime is caused mainly by people who think they can get away with things, so they commit crimes just for the sake of doing it.
Alright, what causes crime? I would say heartless people. Maybe people who aren't in the right state of mind at the time, people out to seek revenge on other people. You know, some people have gone through some tough times in their life and it might just make them emotionally disturbed and they just take it out on everyone else. And that's what I think.
The environment you grow up in, like you're surrounded by drugs,
gang violence.
That can all have an impact on you and how you grow up. The friends you hang out with. You don't have nothing to do, you're going to want to join something and want to be a part of it. Yeah.
In Boston, crime is caused by a lot of things. On one hand, you have education. You know, people who drop out of school, don't go to school, things like that. Obviously, you know, they're hanging around on the streets and causing crime that way. Another thing is there's not many, you know, programs after school to keep kids active, keep kids involved, keep kids disciplined. And then also you have, you know, another set where, you know, just growing up and being adolescents, moving from, you know, grade school to middle school and in your teenage years, you also have that whole deviant lifestyle where, you know, you try and, you know, draw away and cause trouble, you know, naturally that, you know, teenagers do that, but when you kind of combine them all together, you have, you know, teenagers who are dropping out of school and or not doing anything after school. You know, you tend to get those kinds of issues happening in the city, and you know, crime stems from that.
I believe crime is caused by the communities people grow up in.
Violence is caused by drugs and people killing each other in the streets.
I think what causes crime is sometimes lack of education and also lack of morals and ethics. Sometimes it's a tough time for people and sometimes they may feel they need to steal or they need to do something because they think it's the right thing to do, actually it's not the right thing to do. So I think it's by perception of ethics and by lack of education.
In my opinion, what causes crime is inequality, difference between rich and poor, and the rich people getting richer and the poor people being deprived of what they really deserve. And another factor, like right now, I would say that, yeah, it's just poverty. In my opinion, it's just poverty that causes crime.
I think people have been trying to answer that question forever because there's always been crime. But I think that know, if you compare it to some places where the economy is a lot worse, their crime rate is higher. So that's got something to work on. Getting the economy back in shape, it'll make a difference. And get youth workers out on the street to try to get kids away from the track of joining gangs.
All right.
I believe teenagers hanging out on the streets causes crimes.
I believe the causes of crime are multifaceted. I think it's society, our values. I don't think we work enough to say what is wrong. I think the schools don't teach morality strong enough. I think it's families. I think it's media. I think it's law enforcement. I think it's the courts. Crime is knowing the difference between right and wrong. And there's so many different levels of crime. I think we turn around and say, we're not going to be caught, and there's no consequences for our actions. Especially when we're talking about crime with youth. They feel, oh, I'm young, they're going to give me a break. And I think it's just starting a journey down the wrong path. I think crime is a global problem, and we all got to work.
What causes crime? That's a big, broad question. I think what causes crime is lack of intelligence, lack of hope, a lack of patience by the older generation and the younger generation.
I think there are lots of reasons for crime. I think one of the most important is a lack of sense of community, where people don't feel that they owe anything to anybody else, and anybody else is actually looking out for them, and that makes it okay for them to go and do things to make themselves feel better, to improve their own personal situation, and make other people's situation worse. It's also a sense of ownership of yourself, a sense of responsibility that tends to have decreased in recent years because of the education or lack of education that children are getting from their parents. So it can be kind of compounding and get worse generation after generation. I think we're seeing the effects of previous generations, lack of instilling certain values in their children, which cause them to not be so worried about other people. And it's also a sense that you can get away with it, and that it's okay, and that if it's not frowned upon. Minor crimes are not frowned upon the way that they used to be in the past. So people, don't feel ashamed of their crimes. They just feel, annoyed that they got caught, if they do get caught. That's about it.
My opinion, what causes crime is like gangs, like gang violence and stuff like that. Like everybody trying to fight over territory that's not theirs, making it harder for other people in life to just be themselves. So that's just my opinion on the whole thing.
My opinion on what causes gang violence, what causes crimes is just like no parental guide. Your parents got to be there for your children to watch what they're doing and just help them out along the way. Parental guide.
What I think causes these crimes is the whole poverty thing. People not having what they want, so it comes to greed and they go after stuff, so they try to do whatever means necessary. That's what I think.
What do I think causes crime? I would have to say lack of education, lack of opportunity, probably lack of love, depending on the age group. I would assume that most people probably start acting out when they're younger because they don't know how to relate to others, and usually it will provide a certain amount of attention that they aren't finding either in the home or peer pressure as well. But number one, I think it's just probably lack of opportunity and education to understand that violence isn't the best way to react.
Now you have seen and heard what Cathedral students and faculty believe truly cause crime here in Boston.